Every summer for 9 years, my parents sent me to my aunt's house so my brother could have family vacations. The day I graduated, I quietly moved to another state without telling anyone. It took them 4 years to find me, and by then, my life had completely changed. Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Brooks. I'm 28 years old, and my parents didn't realize I disappeared until 4 years after I'd left. By then, I'd already built an entirely new life, a new career, a new home, a new family. The strange part wasn't that it took them 4 years to find me. The strange part was that it took them 4 years to notice I was gone. When my aunt finally called and said, "Hannah, your parents are looking for you," I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because I honestly couldn't remember the last time they'd looked for me at all. Looking back, I think my parents stopped seeing me when I was 8 years old. That was the summer my younger brother, Tyler, turned 4. Mom smiled while helping me pack my suitcase. "It'll be so much fun staying with Aunt Linda." I smiled. "I get to see the beach too." She avoided my eyes. "No, sweetheart, we're taking Tyler this year. You'll stay with Aunt Linda." "Why?" Dad answered, without looking up from loading the car. "It'll just be easier." I didn't understand what that meant. I understood a year later. And the year after that, every summer, the exact same routine. Mom packed my clothes. Dad loaded my suitcase. They drove me to Aunt Linda's little farmhouse 2 hours away. Hugged me, promised they'd see me in 2 weeks. Then they drove to beaches, theme parks, national parks, Disney World. Every family vacation photo featured the same 3 smiling faces. Mom, Dad, Tyler. I wasn't in a single one. At first, I cried after they left. Aunt Linda always hugged me. Then she'd smile and say, "Their vacation starts today. Ours does too." She made those summers magical. We baked pies, picked strawberries, went fishing, read books on the porch during thunderstorms. She never tried replacing my parents. She simply loved me. One afternoon, when I was 11, I quietly asked her, "Why don't Mom and Dad ever take me?" She looked heartbroken. "I don't know, sweetheart, but it has nothing to do with you." I wanted to believe her. Children usually blame themselves. I certainly did. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe I wasn't fun. Maybe vacations cost too much. Maybe I simply wasn't enough. Every September, my classmates talked about family trips. They showed photographs, souvenirs, stories. I smiled politely, then described picking blackberries with Aunt Linda. I never mentioned why I was there. By high school, I stopped asking questions. Whenever summer arrived, I packed my own suitcase. Mom always smiled. "You know the routine." I did. At 16, I accidentally discovered the truth. Tyler left his tablet on the kitchen table. A slideshow started playing automatically. Hundreds of vacation pictures. Every year, every trip, one photograph caught my attention. The caption read, "Our perfect little family." I stared at it. 3 people, not 4. Mom walked into the room, quickly closed the tablet, then awkwardly laughed. "Oh, that was just a caption." I quietly nodded. I know, but I also knew nobody had corrected it, because nobody thought it was wrong. College became my escape. I earned scholarships, worked part-time, graduated without asking my parents for financial help. Aunt Linda attended every ceremony. She cheered louder than anyone. Mom and Dad came too, but they spent most of graduation talking about Tyler's upcoming baseball tournament. After the ceremony, Dad hugged me. "So, what are your plans?" I smiled. "I've accepted a job." "That's nice." "Where?" I looked at him. "You didn't ask." He laughed. "You're right." "So, where?" I smiled again. "I'll tell you once everything's finalized." He nodded distractedly, then walked away to answer a phone call. It was about Tyler. 3 weeks later, I packed everything I owned into a rented truck, accepted a position with an engineering firm nearly 1,000 miles away, signed the lease on a small apartment, changed my phone number, started over. The only person who knew my new address was Aunt Linda, not because I wanted to punish anyone, because, for the first time in my life, I wanted to know what it felt like if someone actually chose to find me. Years passed. I worked hard, earned promotions, bought my first home, made wonderful friends, built a peaceful life. Every birthday, Aunt Linda called. Every Christmas, she visited. She became the family I'd always needed. My parents, nothing, no visits, no calls, no birthday cards, no questions. Occasionally, I'd hear about Tyler through distant relatives. He got married, had a baby, changed careers twice. Life moved on. Mine did too. Then, exactly 4 years after I left, my phone rang. The caller ID read, "Aunt Linda." I smiled immediately. "Hi, Aunt Linda." She didn't answer with her usual cheerful voice. Instead, she quietly said, "Hannah, I need to tell you something." My smile faded. "What happened?" She took a slow breath. "Your parents finally realized you're gone." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "They went to your old apartment. The manager told them you moved out years ago." I sat in stunned silence. She continued softly, "They've been calling everyone. They're trying to find out where you live." I looked out my living room window, watching the sunset over the city I'd called home for 4 years. Then quietly asked, "Why now?" Aunt Linda sighed. "I don't know. But they sound desperate." Before I could ask another question, she added one final sentence. "The strange part, they keep saying they have something incredibly important they need to tell you. Sometimes, the people who spend years forgetting you don't start searching because they suddenly remember your worth. Sometimes they start searching because they've finally lost something they never imagined could disappear." So as I ended the call and stared at my quiet living room, I couldn't stop wondering what had changed after 4 years of silence, and why my parents suddenly couldn't live without finding me. I stared out my living room window long after the call ended. 4 years. It had taken my parents 4 years to realize I wasn't coming back. Not 4 days, not 4 weeks, 4 years. I finally texted Aunt Linda. "Did they say why they're looking for me?" She replied almost immediately, "No, but they're coming to see me tomorrow. I'll call afterward." The next afternoon, my phone rang again. Aunt Linda sounded exhausted. "They were here for almost 3 hours." "What happened?" She sighed. "They cried." That surprised me. "They cried. They said they couldn't understand why you disappeared." I closed my eyes. "They still don't understand." "No, they don't." Then she quietly added, "Hannah, I finally told them." "Told them what?" "The truth." I stayed silent. "I told them that every summer they left you here. You cried yourself to sleep the first few nights. I told them you used to ask whether you'd done something wrong. I told them you stopped asking because you stopped believing they'd ever choose you." Tears filled my eyes. "I never wanted you to tell them." "I know, but they needed to hear it." A week later, there was a knock on my front door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the security camera. My parents stood on the porch, older, more tired, holding no luggage, no gifts, just themselves. I opened the door. For several seconds, no one spoke. Mom's eyes immediately filled with tears. "You look..." "I am." Dad looked around my home. "You bought this?" "Yes. It's beautiful." "Thank you." An awkward silence settled between us. Finally, I invited them inside. We sat around my dining table, the same kind of table I'd always imagined sharing with family. Mom looked around quietly. "We didn't even know what state you lived in." I answered honestly. "You never asked?" Dad lowered his head. "We thought you'd call eventually. I thought you'd notice I was gone." No one spoke. Mom finally whispered, "Your aunt told us everything." I nodded. "I figured. We never knew you felt that way." I looked at her gently. "I told you, when I was 9, when I was 12, when I was 15, you always said, 'It'll be easier this way.'" She covered her face. "I remember. I wish I didn't." Dad quietly asked, "Do you know why we came?" "I honestly don't." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small photo album. He placed it on the table. Inside were every family vacation photograph I'd never been part of. Every beach, every amusement park, every holiday. Mom quietly turned each page. "We started looking through these after Tyler asked something." "What did he ask?" "He asked why you were missing." I frowned. "What?" "He wanted to show his daughter pictures of her aunt. There weren't any. Not one." He kept asking, "Where's Aunt Hannah?" Dad swallowed hard. And for the first time, we actually looked. Page after page, hundreds of memories, not a single one included me. Mom whispered, "That's when we realized. And we hadn't left you out once. We'd left you out every single time." Silence filled the room. Then Dad quietly admitted, "We weren't searching because we needed money. We weren't sick. There wasn't an emergency. We were searching because..." So we finally understood what we'd done. I looked at the album again. For years, I had imagined those vacations. Now, I finally saw them. And somehow, the pictures hurt less than I expected, because I no longer wanted to be in them. My real memories were different. Strawberry fields, homemade pies, fishing with Aunt Linda, reading books during thunderstorms. I smiled softly. "You know something?" Mom looked up hopefully. "My favorite childhood memories weren't the vacations I missed. They were the summers Aunt Linda gave me." She started crying again. "I'm so sorry." "I know." Dad looked at me. "Can you ever forgive us?" I thought carefully, then answered honestly, "I already forgave you." Their faces lit up. "But forgiveness isn't the same as pretending nothing happened." They slowly nodded. I understand. You'll have to earn being part of my life. And if you ever become part of it again, it will be because you choose me, not because you finally noticed I disappeared. Mom reached across the table. She stopped halfway, waiting. I gently took her hand. Not because everything was fixed, because healing had finally begun. Epilogue. Soft piano becomes warm and hopeful, carrying the quiet peace that comes from discovering that family isn't defined only by blood, but by the people who consistently choose you. 4 years later, things look very different. My parents never missed another birthday, never forgot another phone call, never again planned a family gathering without asking if I could come. Not because they were trying to erase the past, because they finally understood that love is shown through ordinary choices. Tyler apologized too. He admitted he never questioned the vacations because he was just a child. Today, he's one of my closest friends. His daughter calls me Aunt Hannah. Every summer, she spends 1 week with me and 1 week with Aunt Linda. She loves baking pies, just like I did. As for Aunt Linda, I surprised her on her 70th birthday. I handed her a small envelope. Inside was the deed to a cozy lake house. She looked at me in complete shock. Hannah, I can't accept this. I smiled. You spent 9 summers making sure one little girl never felt unwanted. This is just one way of saying thank you. She hugged me tighter than anyone ever had. Sometimes, people ask if I regret leaving without telling my parents. I always give the same answer. No, because leaving wasn't about punishing them. It was about giving myself the chance to build a life where I was finally seen. My thoughts. Looking back, the greatest gift Aunt Linda ever gave me wasn't a place to stay during the summers. She gave me proof that I was always worthy of love. Sometimes, the family that heals your heart isn't the one you were born into. It's the one that shows up, again and again, without being asked. And if someone spends years making you feel like an afterthought, don't spend the rest of your life waiting for them to remember you. Build a life so full of peace, purpose, and genuine love that whether they find you or not, you'll never be lost again.